AI and dual-use technology, risks, connection to conflicts, military operations, and it's not a secret that this topic is becoming more and more important, and those who follow, for example, Russo-Ukrainian war can see how important dual-use technologies became, and how much is being said about AI and how much money is being invested in that domain in big and not only big countries. So first, I will come with a question to Aram. And I want to ask you, how do you see the military applications of AI and dual-use technology nowadays and in near future, and how you see Armenia adapting to that changes, and actually what Armenia is doing in that domains at the moment?
Thank you, Niranjan. So in order to evaluate the applications of AI in defense industry, I think we should make one statement, important statement, which has happened during the last years. I'm summarizing it as an iPhone moment has happened in warfare. So now we see how we move from conventional, like heavy weaponry, to more lightweight and integrated types of weapons, where every sensor becomes a weapon, and every weapon has a sensor. What that means, basically, that means that we are moving to more and more automated and integrated system of warfare, where the role of human or soldier is not undermined, but is getting minimized and minimized, switching more to more automated flows and automated management of the battlefield. In this context, like 10 years ago, software has started to eat the world. That's how I see the software now will start to eat the defense industry. And by saying software, of course, we mean like AI, like the smart software. Hence, there is no doubt that investing in AI, so our main focus to invest in defense industry will be investing more and more in integrated software and particularly in AI. It is that simple. And now we already see the first products developed by Armenian companies, used by our military already, and where we are doubling down in the directions. We see, let's name a few AI applications which are in use already. First one is, of course, drones and automating tracking and automated targeting of the weapons. Most of the thing is happened through AI. And this solves lots of problems and takes the weapon to the next level. Your drone or loitering munition now can fly in a jump areas. It can fly without operators for a certain direction or for a certain period of time. Depending on how much you automate or how advanced your AI is, in that level you minimize the factor of officer, the factor of human mistakes. Second application of AI, which I believe, if I would have only $1 million in defense industry to invest in, that's where I would invest in, is building command and control centers, command and control platforms, which aim to automate the battlefield management, connect all weapons and automate the flows by minimizing the human factor. And we already have like C2 command control or C4 solutions developed and integrated into our army already. And the existing solutions are just the foundational layer, foundational platform, like the iOS on the iPhone, where you can build new applications, new apps, AI apps, defense applications on top of that platform. So to summarize, I think like AI is like the next frontier even in defense industry, and it is very clear. It's not like for tomorrow, it's started already yesterday. We are investing in, we are building in, we are continuing to invest in. This is a major direction we are focused on. And we have a clear roadmap as well. Like it's all very clear, all very concrete. And maybe to summarize, I think regarding to the dual use applications, right? Like we all knew that the most civilian, many very important civilian applications we are using now has emerged from the defense, like the GPS or whatever communication and stuff. So I truly believe that even the best civilian use cases operated or managed by AI will be emerged from our defense industry. Again, regarding to automated control, regarding to automation of many processes.
Yeah, of course, and nuclear power plants also came from nuclear weapons initially, so it all makes sense. Maybe we'll also see more of civilian technologies becoming military technologies, vice versa. That could be also an interesting thing to look at.
I think, that is what we stated from the beginning. The iPhone moment has happened, and the barrier between like civilian and defense technologies is getting more and more blurred. Like a small FPV drones or small Mavic drones became a very important weapon even in 2020. And it is now in 2024 or 5 in Ukraine, the Russian war. And this is the tendency we see.
Thank you very much. With Satoru, we had a quite interesting discussion yesterday on Sidelines, and I want to bring it up here. Very much about the dual-use technology. As we mentioned a few times already, for example, this civilian drones, FPV drones, became kind of almost a silver bullet at the moment for both sides on war in Ukraine, and we see kind of a domination of civilian technology in at least in some categories of military application. How do you see this trend is going to be growing, still continuing growing, or there can be some other dynamics?
Thank you very much for asking. Yes, it is honor for me to speak in front of the high motivation audiences in this. Because when I was in the high school student, because motivation is too low, just class, just after the lunch, everyone sleep and the teacher can see the horizon. So, but now we can see the very prominent audiences, and I need to explain in front of you. It is honor for me. About this question, yes. We can remember what happened in this background reality is like that. During the US-Soviet Cold War, the military leads technological development. So there are many restrictions, and the military knows this technology, but the civilian sector do not know. But after the Cold War, they eased restriction. And when we check the research and the development budgets, the civil sector leads this budget. Compared with military organization. So that's why now the civil sector leads technological development. So that's why we need to talk about dual use technology, because the civil sector technology, but can use for the military purpose. So that is dual use technology. So now the world has changed, and indeed we are facing the military related issues. So that's why the military organization needs this technology, but mainly they are developing the civil sector. So how different? In case of the civil sector, yes, there is no restriction, because one kind of the open access itself is a weapon of the technological development. For example, the software, basic software PC is one example. Recently, AI is another example. Many technologies in the civil sector, and they do not have intent to restrict access. But in this case, what happened in Ukraine and the battlefield? Yes, there are many drones Russia use. In this case, but Russian weapon use drone use parts made in Japan. Japan do not have intent to expose these parts to Russia, but in the market they can buy it. So that's why the view from the military side, of course they want to stop such kind of flow. But this change is gradual, step by step. So in the future it will happen, but not now. So that's why currently we are using how to exploit this situation, which one will we rely on, how to exploit this situation. So that's why how to access the dual use technology or how to restrict the dual use technology from enemy side. But that is matters we are facing, and in case of the development of the advanced technology, we try to restrict and what kind of rule we need to set up. That is a matter, I think. But that is background reality we need to say. Maybe I should stop it because the second question will come in the future, and at that time I will speak more.
Thank you. So you're kind of not very much supporting the idea that dual use will be dominating, and you see that, just to conclude, you see that this is a dying branch on the long term. Yeah, I was just following up for.
Sorry,
Just to conclude, you think that it's the dual use is not going to be used that much as it is at this moment. Yeah.
No. Dual use is very common now. So one example I pointed out, the drone use made in Japan parts. Another one is, for example, the current concern is if one of the examples, if the drone possesses one kind of developed AI, which originally developed in the civil sector, weak point of the drone is jamming, because the control is most important. But if the drone has AI, even if the jamming disrupts the communication between headquarters and drone, still drone can sync and continue the operation. So that's why in this case, this is related with the AI issue. But at the same time, such kind of concerns exist because civil sector developed this AI and other people can access it. So this is reality. So dual use is current issue, but future issue, of course. But that is I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And question to Zhu. You come from Taiwan. As I understand, it's a very unique place. In some things, you can even draw parallels with Armenia. Not in everything, but it's a difficult place to be, at least. So. At the same time, Taiwan is a leading, let's say, dominant power in the semiconductor industry. And what is Taiwan doing at the moment in regarding AI? Are there any interesting policies or ambition to be leaders in that domain too? And of course, how is Taiwan seeing the risks of AI coming from China?
Thank you, Leonid, and thanks for this panel. I think it's really good to also have an AI-focused panel, but from different perspectives. Indeed, I do come from Taiwan, but I am obviously originally from Europe. I am Hungarian, and I've been in Taiwan for the past 5 years. And so global conversations on AI, I think, unfold differently depending on where we sit. And clearly in Taiwan is often, or at least my angle to talk about AI and Taiwan is from the angle of innovation to begin with. But that's not where it ends, because as you said, Taiwan is perhaps, you said, a difficult place to be in. It's a unique place. I think The Economist said at one point that it was the most dangerous place. But to cut to the chase in terms of what Taiwan does and what we all know of Taiwan is, I think it's either the conflict or the tension growing with China and TSMC, which is Taiwan's greatest strategic asset, and using its expertise and excellence in semiconductors. This is what has given already Taiwan, say, a silicon shield. And I think to move the conversation to AI, the ambition is to turn Taiwan into an AI island, meaning to really enhance the capacity that Taiwan already has and to build on that and to turn itself a reliable, predictable partner for countries that rely and basically the entire world relies on technology. So I think Taiwan has secured itself a very solid position in innovation and driving innovation, but also clearly Taiwan sits at the heart of the US-China strategic rivalry and the race for technology. So that leads us to the question, can Taiwan maintain this role? And I think if we talk about how semiconductors can be developed and further enhanced, obviously that needs access to internet. And so Taiwan gets internet through undersea cables. So that already brings into the question of the great vulnerability that Taiwan has, because those undersea cables are very vulnerable. And they can be damaged accidentally. Also, they can be tampered with. And we've seen that in the past. I think Taiwan is linked to other countries in the region and also to the United States through 14 different cables. And I think globally, this network of cables is very sophisticated, but very vulnerable. So this is just to highlight one vulnerability that Taiwan has. But I think Taiwan is on the right path to maintain that leadership role. The AI island ambition, I think, is not just on paper. We've seen the discipline and the strategic investment in this industry from Taiwan top down, so government incentives and industrial policy going back to the 70s. But this has become a bottom up process. So to give a different dimension to the AI landscape and to the dangers of how Taiwan faces the risk, actually, or how it manages the risks. Because when we talk about AI applications and generative AI, that is another great risk that Taiwan faces through the cross-strait context. So China, with the People's Republic of China, clearly, as you all know in this room, has sovereignty claims over Taiwan. I think this is something that has been a limitation, clearly, for Taiwan. But the interesting thing is that despite this limitation, everything that we get and we work with from Taiwan is vital to run the global economy. So I think there are opportunities for Taiwan to further contribute to the prosperity of other countries and to project itself as a reliable partner, as I said, also in AI. And going forward, to also link this to what was already said in terms of other applications of AI and AI-enhanced autonomous warfare systems. I think this is another area where, again, Taiwan plays a very important role, and that is through edge computing. So perhaps this is something that we can discuss further on, but without AI model processing in those drones that can be used in autonomous warfare, communication that can be tampered with, therefore the autonomous warfare system that countries want to rely on in the modern warfare system will not work without AI-enhanced models. So Taiwan definitely plays a vital role in that. And I think in terms of opportunities and destruction, I think they are, in a way, two sides of the same coin. And I think Taiwan is definitely a good example where bottom up, and I think it's very important to also really highlight this bottom up approach and top down industrial policy approach that has allowed to see Taiwan what it is today, a vital geostrategic actor that faces an existential threat from China. So for Taiwan particularly, developing drones is not a question of technology only, it is a question of national survival. And I think that's where questions of geopolitics get more complicated, but perhaps I can return to that in Q&A, or if you have a follow-up question, I'm happy to take.
Thank you very much. It's all very important to come to another issue, which is there are many discussions about regulating the applications of military AI. At the same time, there are many thoughts also about a big controversy between needs of different armed forces and regulations, because we see now how, if we go into the practical examples, we see, for example, swarms of drones and the air defense, which can't do anything without that. If there is no AI engine which will make the selection of targets, given automated orders to different types of batteries, and you can't put man in the loop in that. So if you will put the man in the loop, you won't have the time to respond to the attack. And then you need to make somehow the guy who is making swarms of drones not to make them, but you know how difficult it is in the practical field. And here, Urmi, I of course ask you a difficult question, but how do you see, is it feasible to have some worldwide framework for regulating at least some of the military applications of AI? And what should be the core ethical principles for that? And what is more important, the enforcement mechanism, so it's a viable agreement. We know very many examples of arms control treaties which were not being implemented after a day after signing it.
Thank you for the very easy question. I think I'd start with that there is an acute recognition of the problem, as you very well put it, the amount of risk that this poses without the possibility of regulation is something that countries are acutely aware of. Let's talk about accountability and responsibility. If there's unintended harm of these AI systems, then who does the liability lie with? Is it the developer? Is it the operator? Is it the AI system? These are all existential questions that countries are kind of grappling with nationally as well as internationally. And even when it's hard to talk about regulation in this space without also thinking about international humanitarian law. It makes a very clear distinction in developing of these technologies in principles of distinction and proportionality. So distinction being who is a combatant, who is a non-combatant, proportionality in terms of what is the military advantage that you're getting as opposed to the collateral damage that might occur because of unintended harm. So how do we kind of bake these principles into the conversations that we're having globally? I think these are some of the sort of existential questions that countries are grappling with. And in terms of thinking about a framework, of course, this isn't easy because, as we've highlighted in all our conversations here, that it's a matter of national security, and anything that is that a country's survival depends on or is a primary affront to national security is very hard to determine what are the legal principles that might be governing everybody's use. But perhaps there can be some sort of guardrails that we can put in place, which are not as prescriptive, but not as tight, but act as basic guardrails in this space. One would be that it's important to recognize that regulation should be not towards the AI system, but towards the use case. So AI is just a tool, and it can be used for good, it can be used for unintended consequences, but identifying what are the critical use cases, which use cases have a threshold of harm or risk, and going from there in terms of baking principles. So if there's high risk, high harm that could possibly come into place because of social impact assessments, which say that a large number of people will be impacted by this, perhaps that is something that we could regulate, the use case rather than the technology itself, because we have to guard for innovation in this space as well. So that's one thing that countries would not be easy. It would not be easy for them to leave way on to not have innovation in this space. It also perhaps regulation, but using a plethora of tools at your disposal, regulating what is high risk. We could also use procurement as a tool here. So once we have identified what needs to be regulated, governments, when they're procuring technologies, can have these baked into their contracts as well. So you will not procure without these guardrails in place. So something that is from the end of the government would be useful in terms of governing practical implementation of these ethical principles. And perhaps there's also a need to leverage the AI conversations that are going on right now. So you have the AI impact summits, for example, which take place, which are more about governance, less about the defense side of things. So sometimes conversations around AI governance and conversations around defense are held very separately and in silos. So there's a need to kind of bridge that as well. There are a lot of conversations going on. There's the G7 principles, the UN frameworks, the Hiroshima AI principles, and wedding that to conversations around defense and bridging, making that gap very early is very important. We have a very unique opportunity of starting the harmonization process early. We see in many spaces like cybersecurity where countries develop in silos and they have their own standards, their own definitions, and they don't speak to each other. And then later on, when we're grappling with the problem, we look back and we say, oh, we should think about a way to integrate and harmonize better. This is an opportunity where we can have these conversations in parallel, and it's sort of not too late to start that. Another thing that I would say is, when we look at NPT, there are treaties like the NPT, for example, there's always resentment from the global south, for example, in talking about how these treaties are formulated, how they are more patched towards the global north. And it's important for frameworks like these to be extremely inclusive and adaptive. AI is an evolving technology. What's a definition today may not be something tomorrow, so it's important for frameworks to be extremely adaptive and also inclusive of Global South as well. So I would say that these would be some of the principles we can think about. It's difficult to be over-prescriptive in this space because there are so many values of like national security that are attached to it. But having basic guardrails is perhaps the way we can look forward to here.
Thank you very much for, I think, a quite good answer to the difficult question. When I was listening your answer, I had one idea, was that maybe the only application which I see very feasible to regulate is AI regarding nuclear deterrence assets, for example, because it's interesting that USSR, for example, had a system not AI-based, but system without man in the loop. If Soviet was attacked by first, if everyone was killed, there was a chance that there could be a nuclear answer without anyone in the leadership being alive. So something around this can be a good step to maybe begin the process. But thank you very much. I think it would be great to give opportunity to our audience to give some questions to our distinguished speakers, and please raise hands, and just the only ask is keeping short. And please tell your name and short affiliation, of course.
So thank you very much for very interesting perspectives on the same issue, but from very different angles. My question is more for the colleague from Taiwan, but maybe it has a broader perspective, which the others can also reflect. In Armenia, it is now very popular, this we call it porcupine strategy, military defense, asymmetric defense, and it comes from Taiwan. So Taiwan, China, giant next door, etc. And Armenia, we have our own giant and our own challenges. So my question is, with AI, and usually we say one accountant with AI is equal to 10 accountants, or whatever, the other programmers are multiplying in numbers if they use properly AI. When we speak about military soldiers, is there any thinking in Taiwan about the army number could be multiplied by artificial intelligence so much, but in numbers and in quality also? Thank you.
Yeah, I think if you can answer to. Yeah.
Thank you for your question, and I'm glad you asked because that's something I forgot to talk about, which is something I wanted to talk about. So indeed, Taiwan is definitely rethinking its defense strategy, and that comes also in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Ukraine's response and ability to respond to that. And also the asymmetry and the asymmetric warfare is definitely high on the agenda. So what experts say is that what Taiwan needs, given the asymmetry between Taiwan itself and China is a large number of small things, which is drones and AI-enhanced drones, and this is already happening. So this is not only in light of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This has been ongoing for a number of years. So there's a drone strategy, and I think I actually have the exact 3 principles that this is based on. So this is to integrate autonomous system into broader defense strategy of Taiwan. So I think that the integration of that new warfare into the conventional warfare is a challenge, but that's a priority. The second is for Taiwan to build a secure, scalable drone production capacity for itself. So that's where it has a lot of capacity, but how much of it and how fast it can get there, that's a big challenge. And the third is to align its industrial and operational frameworks with like-minded partners. So as you all know, the US is the most important security partner for Taiwan, but in this regard, when it comes to asymmetric warfare, Taiwan is looking at all partners that it can trust, and that includes European partners. In fact, they also have an alliance which is called the Taiwan Excellence Drone International Business Opportunity Alliance. This has over 100 international partners, which includes European members as well. So the bottom line is that, yes, this is the way forward for Taiwan, given the existential threat it faces, as I already mentioned. And if we look at conventional defense, obviously, I mean, China's defense budget, I think, is about 250 billion. I mean, that's the figures that we know, but let's just use that figure for now. And Taiwan's budget is about 11 billion. Clearly, the way forward is to invest in the AI technology that allows to level up the drone capacity and to respond. And it's not only, I think, in the case of an attack, because I think the conversations have already actually shifted away from the threat of a military invasion from the PRC, but it's more towards the direction of a blockade or a quarantine situation, which is not necessarily an act of war, but it would still require Taiwan to respond. And in this context, I think the asymmetric warfare is number one priority. But I also should say that not everyone is on the same page in understanding the deterrence value of asymmetric warfare at the expense of traditional warfare capacity. So it goes hand in hand with investing in hardware, as you know, the heavy military visible equipment that Taiwan also needs, including submarines and other military equipment. But I think this is definitely a priority that's number one, in particular since February 2022. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I think we can have like 2-3 more questions. So, okay, I can see a person with mic.
Hi, thank you for the great panel. So this is maybe 2 questions rather than 1 question. So the way the argument is being set here is that we need to use AI in military technology because we need to, sort of level the playing field for some of the smaller actors and reduce asymmetry. But it's really unclear to me why that is the outcome that you foresee. Because yes, the military budget of Taiwan is lower than the military budget of China, but that asymmetry is not going to go away from AI because China is also going to invest in AI. It's not like you guys will use AI and China will not. So my concern is that it's really a bad strawman proposition that's being set up, that somehow using AI will allow you to balance things, when actually the asymmetry will increase and not decrease, because China will have more resources to throw on AI than some of the smaller actors. And the negative side effect of that is that it's not just a dual-use technology, it's a, for lack of a better phrase, a triple-use technology, because the same drone technology that you can use for warfare can also be used to crush civil dissent, right? Which is something that we're not talking about, because a lot of the drone use technology that is being used for warfare, being developed for warfare, is right now currently being deployed in civilian kind of architectures to crush protests, to crush civil sort of protest movements in different countries. So it seems we are talking about international geopolitics, but actual use of AI technology is going to be to go after civilians.
Who wants to answer to that? Okay, Satura, please.
If this is a question to the general background, I want to quote one example in the history. Because, of course, Armenia defeated Nazi Germany, so, but at the same time, I need to say, after the World War I, German army is restricted under the Treaty of Versailles, so number is only 100,000. 2 decades later, they occupy more than half of the Europe. Well, how to make such kind of army? It is because they rely on the brain. That's why they focusing on. They try to train the 100,000 officers to become the top of the 3 million army. So after Nazis won in and they declared rearmed this and the conscript system restarted, and this 100,000 becomes 300 million suddenly. That's why other country cannot catch up. So this is one of the good example. Effective use of the budget, resources, manpower, and is key in the military strategy. And in this case, brain is a matter. If the AI is developed, AI could be good bureaucrat, AI could be good advisor, AI can manage a big organization by using the small number of the people. AI is a key. That's why every country, most of the country focusing on AI now. This could be the military revolution. But the history indicates this is the right way from how to make the strong military. That's why this is important. This is general answer of this question. But I do not support of the Nazi, so don't mistake. Thank you.
Please, Julia.
Thank you for your question, and I hear your skepticism, but I would love to hear what you think would be the better way forward. So maybe we can do that after, if we have time. But for now, I think what I would say is I did not mean to imply that that will make up the asymmetric defense posture. Will not is clearly the asymmetry will only grow. You're absolutely right. But I think the posture or rethinking its current posture means that it is a way for Taiwan to prepare its own self-defense and resilience, as well as deterrence. And I think this is more to compensate for the asymmetry that is there on paper. That's why I said the numbers. I mean, that was not my, I simplified things. That's not the simple conclusion that, well, we just have drones and it will make up for it. Obviously not. But if, in my opinion, I think this is the way forward, given the level and the speed of technology, and I should also say the level of assertiveness that Beijing has been projecting across the strait, that it's a matter of time, of if, not, when, not if, before Beijing it really steps up to make a move on Taiwan. And I don't want to put a label on what that would be. I already said that I see the military invasion as less of and more risky option. And perhaps, again, Russia's invasion of Ukraine comes with a lot of good lessons. But I don't know if we are learning or people learn the good lessons from it. But that's what I would respond now. But I'm happy to hear your thoughts on what you think is the better way forward, because perhaps you have better ideas.
Mr. Jivanyan also wants to add something. So
I really like the question and the statement, basically, that we are investing in AI, thinking that can bring us to like non-symmetric advantages, but the counterparty or enemy is also investing that, and he's bigger and he's investing more. So where we can leverage, where is our advantage? This is absolutely true, as much as true is the opposite, that this is the best you still can do and you should do. And as like history shows, the civilizations has moved on the waves of technology advancements, right? Like over the 100 years. And we have the history that not only the biggest countries have survived. If this statement has been true, like we still would have Rome Empire, for example, because they have been the biggest and strongest, and they could leverage the next wave of technology or next like advancement and stay on the cutting edge or on the top. But this is not the case. So to summarize, you are absolutely right. Like we are investing in our command control, for example, capacities. I'm sure Azerbaijan is doing as well. We are investing in our AI-enabled drones. I'm sure Azerbaijan is doing as well, and they have 3 times more resources, or maybe 10 times. But still, this is the best thing we can do, and we should do. And you know, like going back 20 years ago, when IT became a major, like new economic driver, right? For example, IT became a 7% of our GDP now, but IT is not 7% of Azerbaijan GDP now. So this thinking way is absolutely true, and also it leads to nowhere, in my opinion. So you should focus on what you should do.
Thank you. I think one another question will do if there is a hand. Do we have someone with another question? Okay. Let's just continue with... Okay, you want to add something, please?
To Armenia, I have the message. Indeed, Armenia has the IT sector, very strong IT sector, I think. So that's why, indeed, there is a potential to make more strong something. That is my opinion. So maybe you should say something.
To make AI drones?
Just summarizing, I think it was, we tried to show the topic from really many angles and how complex it is, even for experts. There is, I think, no such a thing like an AI, just an AI expert. There should be, that's not only one thing anymore. It's not, AI is a very different topics, very different applications, and it's becoming more and more complex, and hopefully discussions like this will keep it into the right side and into right direction. And thank you everyone for coming, finding this difficult place to come. Some people were getting lost on the way, but I've seen that everyone at the end managed to come, and hopefully we will meet next year again here, and we'll continue our discussions. Thank you very much.